I didn't raise my voice when the HOA president tried to block the ambulance from reaching my property. She stood there in her windbreaker, arms crossed, shouting about unauthorized access, while a man in the back of that ambulance was struggling to breathe. I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I just stepped aside and let the county sheriff pull up behind her. He got out, glanced at the easement papers in my hand, and said 7 words that ended the whole thing. "Ma'am, this isn't your road to block." It wasn't dramatic. No screaming, no fight. Just the sudden, public collapse of the power they thought they had. And the irony? I could have ended it months earlier, but I let them dig their own hole first. The truth is, I didn't move out. Here looking for trouble. I bought my place because it was quiet. The property was just far enough from the city to give me some breathing room, but close enough that I could drive into town for groceries or appointments without turning it into an expedition. The house itself wasn't anything fancy, just a small 2-story place on a couple acres that my wife and I thought would be perfect for retirement. I had a workshop out back, a patch of woods where the grandkids could run around, and a gravel driveway that connected straight to the county road. I liked the sound of crickets at night instead of car horns. I liked mornings with coffee on the porch where the only thing moving was mist coming off the field. We weren't trying to change the world out here. We just wanted peace. At first, it felt like we'd found it. Neighbors waved, and for the most part, everyone seemed content to mind their own business. The AO wasn't even on my radar. I knew they existed, but I assumed they were the type that worried about lawns and mailboxes, not life or death matters. I kept to myself, paid my dues when the invoice showed up, and figured that would be the end of it, but it didn't take long before the first crack showed. The first violation notice I ever got was for leaving my gate open. According to them, the site of my gravel driveway from the road was aesthetic noncompliance. I thought it was a joke. Who finds someone because their gate is open? But it wasn't a joke. They tacked a pink slip right to my fence post, complete with a threat to levy $100 fines if I didn't maintain visual harmony. I shrugged it off. I closed the gate, not because I cared about their rules, but because it wasn't worth the fight. That was my first mistake, thinking that giving them an inch would satisfy them. If anything, it made them hungrier. A month later, another letter arrived. This time it was about unauthorized construction. I had hired a local guy to repair part of my roof after a storm, and the HOA decided I needed their written approval for that. Never mind that my property wasn't even platted within their development originally. It had been annexed years later. More for their control than for any real necessity, I tried reasoning with them. Sent an email politely explaining that roof repairs weren't under their jurisdiction, backed it up with language from the covenants. Their response? Another notice, doubling the fines, and a snide line at the end about residents who refused to cooperate. That was the moment I felt the shift inside me. Up until then, I had treated it like a nuisance, something to be brushed aside. But when someone starts threatening your home, it becomes personal. I didn't lose my temper. Instead, I started reading, nights at the kitchen table with the covenants spread out, county zoning codes pulled up on my laptop, highlighter marks all over plats and deeds. My wife thought I was obsessed, and maybe I was. But I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't going to be pushed around on my own land. Still, the breaking point didn't come until the emergency. It was late spring when one of my neighbors, an older man 2 houses down, collapsed in his yard. His wife came pounding on my door, screaming for help. I called 911 and ran over to help until the ambulance came. They pulled up fast, lights flashing, but before they could get to his driveway, the HOA president herself appeared. She stood there at the private entrance, physically blocking them, shouting about liability and unauthorized vehicles. I'll never forget the look on the EMT's face, pure disbelief that someone would stand between him and a patient. They tried reasoning with her, but she waved the HOA rules binder like it was gospel. The man was lying there turning gray. As she was quoting bylaws, the paramedics eventually pushed past, but by then precious minutes were lost. The man survived, but barely. And that was the day I decided this wasn't just about me anymore. This was about safety, about power misused in the worst possible way. I stopped writing emails to the HOA. I started pulling records at the county clerk's office. I found the original easement filings from the 1970s, proving that the road running through my property and connecting half the subdivision was deeded as a county-maintained access road. Not HOA, not private, county, which meant emergency services had every right to drive on it, and the HOA had no authority to stop them. I documented everything. Took photos of blocked gates, saved copies of letters, even had neighbors write statements about times they'd been hassled trying to get deliveries. I kept it quiet, though. Let the HOA think I was sulking while, in reality, I was building a case brick by brick. So when the next incident happened this time, an ambulance for my own property, the sheriff was already looped in. I had spoken to him personally, shown him the easement papers, explained the harassment. He told me, if they interfere again, call me directly. That's exactly what I did. When the HOA president planted herself in front of my gate, shouting that the ambulance couldn't pass, I dialed his number. 10 minutes later, his cruiser rolled up. He didn't shout. He didn't argue. He just asked her one question. Do you own this road? She sputtered something about HOA authority. That's when I handed him the certified easement documents. He looked them over, turned back to her, and said, Ma'am, step aside, or you'll be charged with obstruction. The silence was beautiful. She moved. The ambulance rolled through. And just like that, their power crumbled in front of everyone. After that day, everything changed. The county opened an investigation into the HOA's overreach. Several board members resigned quietly rather than face a lawsuit. The president, once so loud and confident, suddenly had nothing to say at meetings. Their lawyers stopped showing up entirely. As for me, life went back to being quiet. The gate stayed open, or closed as I pleased. No more pink notices, no more threats. My neighbors started stopping by, some to thank me, some just to gossip about how quickly the board had fallen apart. And the HOA? They still exist on paper, but they've been defanged. Their budget shrank, their influence collapsed, and now they're little more than a neighborhood newsletter with delusions of grandeur. When I drive down that road now, they wave sometimes, or they look away. Either one is fine with me. Because the truth is, I don't need their approval. I have something far better: peace, backed by the law, and the knowledge that they'll never block another ambulance again. And if you ask me, that's justice.